Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today. For this video we are going to do yet another Japanese sake review, and this one is a little bit special because I'm filming this for you on the 1st of January 2020. So first and foremost, a very happy new year to you guys. I hope that you had a nice Hugmanay or New Year's Eve with your friends and family, and I wish you a very prosperous 2020, and a new decade as well. So I wish you a very prosperous 2020 to 2029. The last decade for me was really interesting. I got to go and live in a few different countries. I got to visit a lot of different places that I wouldn't have thought I would get to go and see, so that was really pretty damn cool actually, and we'll just need to see what this next decade has in store. I've already got some good plans for 2020 and we'll need to see what comes beyond that actually. But I want to thank you as well for your support of the channel over the last 6 years or so. It was 2013 that I started up the channel, so it's over 6 years old, the channel now, and I hope that you guys continue to enjoy it over the next decade. As I've said, I will never stop doing the channel. I always enjoy trying new whiskies and sakes and beers and stuff like that, and I'll continue this basically until I drop. So I hope that you guys continue to enjoy it, and I wish you guys a very prosperous 2020 like I said. For this review then, we've got a sake that was brewed especially for the new year. So this one comes to you from Wakayama Prefecture, which is the first time I'm reviewing a sake from Wakayama Prefecture. As I've told you before, I have a little project for the Japanese sakes. I want to review one from each of the 47 Japanese prefectures. So this is the first Wakayama one. This particular sake comes to you from the Yoshimura Hideo Shoten company, and it is sold under the name Kurumazaka Sake. And this one is the Jumnai Origarami, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It comes in at 16% alcohol. It's a Junmai, which means it's a pure rice sake, and it's got 65% milled rice as well. And they also call this one a shinshu, since it is a fresh sake, if you like. So when it comes to New Year, they like to drink their sakes very, very fresh, of course. So really looking forward to trying this one. Another new sake brewery for us to review here on the channel, and we'll need to see how we get on. As I've told you in these videos before, I am by no means an expert when it comes to Japanese sake. I just really enjoy them, and I think it's cool to do something a little bit different for you guys here on the channel as well. This will be sake review number 18, if I remember correctly. This one will publish on New Year's Day or the day after actually. So yeah, let's do as we always do with these videos then. So as is usual with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the sake. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Kurumazaka Sake. Very first time I'm trying one of their sakes, as I mentioned. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for sake, beer and whiskey and things like that based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers and sake, beers from different countries. There is one there for the sakes as well, and another playlist for all the whiskies that I've reviewed for you. Those are being added to whenever I get the opportunity. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers, breweries, sakes, whiskies and things like that that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Yoshimura Hideo Shoten and Kurumazaka Sake. So Kurumazaka Sake is produced in Iwade city in Wakayama Prefecture in Japan, a little bit to the southeast of us here in Osaka. So the parent company of the sake brewery is Yoshimura Hideo Shoten, and as I've told you before, when it comes to craft beer and sake and things like that in Japan, they tend to have like a brand name for the sakes and stuff like this, but there is a parent company behind that. You see that, for example, with Shiga Kogen beer, which is sold by the Tamamura Honten company, who also produce sake. So that's a good example. But this particular brewery was founded back in 1915 by Hideo Yoshimura, who started brewing at a very young age at a brewery in Nada. And he was really known for his enterprising spirit. If you read through the brewery website and stuff, it talks about the memorial stone that's at his high school and things like that he attended. But the brewery supplied the Japanese armed forces during the war. I believe it was the Navy and the Air Force that they supplied. And they were one of the first breweries to be certified after the war. They were certified as a first-class sake brewery, which is, it basically just talks about the purity of the sake that they were producing. But the brewery The company was reorganised in 1955. Yoshio Yoshimura took over the running of the company in 1966, and the brewery underwent significant modernisation under his guidance. Later in 2004, it passed on again to Kuki Yoshimura, who has been working to grow the sales of the company further, and these days they also have, they're also growing their own rice and things like that, and it's a type, or it's their own strain, if you like, of the Yamada Nishiki rice, which is quite popular for sake brewing, mainly because of its purity and cleanliness, if you like. So yeah, the brewery itself though is named after the hill that Oguri Hangan climbed as he made his way to Kumano in Mie Prefecture, and this is a well-known spot for pilgrims who were looking to converse with the spirits of the dead. This all goes back to the kind of Buddhist Shinto type religion that you'll find in Japan, but apparently his story is known as the death and rebirth story, and so he felt that he was doing a service to remember the dead by helping the pilgrims kind of traverse this road. But they say that the sake is supposed to taste quite strong in the beginning, like walking uphill, and then it's refreshing in the aftertaste, like running downhill. But these guys also produce shochu and other liqueurs, such as plum wine. But they sell their name, the sake name, if you like, the Kurumazaka Sake, is named after the hill. So it's the Kuruma Hill. Zaka is hill in Japanese. So yeah, another really interesting brewery, this one. I think in Wakayama there's about 5 or 6 different sake breweries, but this is the one that we had in the local shop here in Tsurumi in Osaka. So it was quite cool to come across my first Wakayama sake actually. This is the problem with Japanese, you can change one little variable, or one little what's the word I'm looking for? One syllable rather, and it changes the whole meaning of the word. Kuruma, Kurumi, my girlfriend's friend's name, and then Kuruma is car. Japanese is crazy like that. But yeah, a really interesting little company, this one. Actually one of the newer sake breweries that I've come across, 1915. Quite a lot of them were founded around the time of the Meiji Restoration, which was 1867, and you do have a few that came from before that as well. So yeah, one of the newer ones that I've come across, I have to say. But yeah, definitely an interesting company, this one. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. My recommendation for the brewery website, incidentally, is to use the site map, because that was where I found all the information on this. It's quite a difficult website to navigate, otherwise you'll find with a lot of these Japanese sake brewery websites that they're quite old, they're from the early 2000s, so they're very kind of clunky compared to newer and more modern websites. But check it out, you can use Google Chrome to translate a lot of it, and you can follow these guys on social media as well. They do have a Facebook page from what I remember. I'll check out if they have Instagram, and of course if you're interested in the specifics of the different sakes and stuff, you can check out websites like Sake 101 and Urban Sake and stuff like this as well. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about the Yoshimura Hideo Shoten company and the Kurumazaka Sake range. So let's get on and actually have a taste of this one then. So as I told you at the start of the video, this one is a 16% alcohol Junmai, which means that it's a pure rice sake. Junmai means pure rice. You've got lots of different styles, of course. You have Ginjo, which basically means the rice grains are milled down to 60%. You've got Dai Ginjo, which means they're milled down to 50% of their original size. You also have Hanjozos, which is where they add a little bit of distilled alcohol into it, and usually they're a little bit drier. But quite often sakes are a combination of different styles. So for example, Junmai Ginjo, so pure rice, 60%, rice milled down to 60% of its original size. This one, like I said to you, 16% Junmai, pure rice, and it has 65% milled rice grains. And they also call this one a Shinshu, which means that it is a fresh sake, a new sake, and these are the things that they like to drink for the new year. So as I've told you in previous videos, I'm by no means an expert when it comes to tasting sakes, but the things that we rate our sake on, I'm going to fill these notes in later. We rate it on floral quality, fruitiness, earthiness, sweetness, dryness, acidity, the impact and the tail. So we'll talk about that during this video, but I'll just let you have a little look at the presentation of this one before we open it up. There you can see the Kurumazaka, sorry, kanji's on the front of that. It's pretty cool. It tells you a little bit more on the back there, but they gave us this one because it's a New Year's sake. It's wrapped in this little bag, so we'll get it out before we taste it. Now, that's one of the things that always amazes me about Japan, actually. It's a country that is very environmentally conscious, apart from when it comes to packaging. You know, the Japanese culture, there's a little bit of sediment in this one, so we'll just stir it up. But the one thing about Japan that is strange is, you know, that they don't care about packaging. They're very environmentally conscious, apart from when it comes to packaging and things like that. So yeah, you can see this bottle is beautifully presented. I always enjoy these. I really like these Japanese sake bottles. You can see here, this bit up here says Nihonshu, which specifically refers to Japanese sake. Literally it means Japanese alcohol. This little kanji down here means alcohol, but there you can see Kurumazaka, and it tells you that in English at the bottom as well. But this one, as I mentioned to you, is the specific name of this sake is the Junmai Origarami, if you like. So yeah, that's what this says on the little top label here, the Jumnai Origarami, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So yeah, let's get this guy out then and we'll get on with the tasting. Incidentally, this one is a 720 milliliter bottle. There you can see the bottle cap on this one, which again is pretty cool. But let's get it out and into the glass and see how we get on. Yeah, yep, lost the cap, there we go. But yeah, let's see how this one tastes. I'm really curious about this one actually, but this was recommended to us by our local shop, and as I've told you before, they've pointed us in the direction of some very nice sakes in the past actually. So yeah, there we go. So as you can see with this one, we'll talk about the appearance of it first. As I've told you before, when it comes to Japanese sake, they always tend to be pretty clear, but they do have little tinges and things. This one has an almost kind of sandy coloured tinge to it. It's almost like a little bit beige. As I've told you, pardon me, as I've said before, they usually tend to have like a little bit of a greeny, bluey sort of turquoise tinge to them. Some of them can be a little bit yellow, some of them can be a little bit more green. I have seen ones that are a little bit almost kind of purple and things as well, but this one has a lovely kind of yellowy, sandy coloured tinge to it. This one isn't the clearest of sakes that you're going to come across. It's just got a little bit of you know, haziness to it, which is quite nice, and that's one of the characteristics that you'll find of these shinshus. Actually, shin, of course, in Japan means new, and you'll find an area in Osaka called Shin Osaka, which is New Osaka, basically. So yeah, a nice looking sake, this one, I have to say. Let's take a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this. Nothing particularly surprising about the appearance of this one. So yeah, first thing you're going to notice about this, the first thing that really strikes me here is how smooth it is. The rice comes across as being really quite sweet, but at the same time, at the front of the nose, you do get a nice little bit of a floral character out of it. There's definitely some citrusy notes in there. You know, it's got a little bit of a kind of, it's got a little bit of a kind of grassy and floral note to it. It does have some degree of aromaticity, which is nice. Little bit of, on the citrusy side of things, it's got a little bit of an almost gooseberry aroma to it. There's maybe a little bit of a sharper kind of apple-y note to this one as well, and some other kind of citrusy qualities. That's really interesting with this. It's quite it really does smell very fresh and very almost spring-like, if that makes sense. It really has a nice kind of springtime aroma to it, this particular sake. I really like that about it. The aroma of this one is very nice. It's got a very good balance between being very smooth and sweet from the rice, from the Yamada Nishiki rice. That's a very, as I say, a very well known rice when it comes to sake brewing in Japan. So it's got that lovely smoothness and sweetness that you get from that, but at the same time it's got this really fresh, appley, gooseberry kind of citrusy note out of it. Some nice floral notes, like I said. You might detect a teeny little bit of earthiness underneath it. There's not really any kind of acidity coming out in this one, in the aroma. But really it's a very sweet but also very fresh and floral and citrusy smelling sake, this one. So yeah, really interesting, I have to say. So take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it, but we're going to have a taste of this now and see how we get on. So this one is the Junmaishu Origarami, a 16% Junmai, 65% milled rice grains, a shinshu, a fresh sake if you like, from the Kurumazaka Sake range at the Yoshimura Hideo Shoten company, just to give you all the full names. But this one, as I say, is my New Year's sake for 2020. So Happy New Year to you guys. Let's have a taste of this one. Slanje, skål, kampai. Oh yeah, that is Really, really very nice. As I've said to you before, these Japanese sakes, they are a little bit of an acquired taste, but I really love things that are, you know, as smooth as this, and you know, the Japanese sakes, there's nothing you can really compare them to. But you know, this is one of the smoother ones that I've come across, and it's got a lovely sweetness to it. I love how Japanese sake comes in. It's very smooth, and then you just start to get a little bit of dryness out it in the end. So let's just break down the flavour of this one a little bit more closely then. We'll talk about the impact first. So yeah, when you take this sake in, it's very, it comes in and it feels like a little bit sharp in the beginning, but it really smooths out, and then you get this lovely sweetness across the middle of your palate actually. It's really a very, very smooth and very, very sweet sake, and it's more that we'll talk about the tail later, but the tail is what really gives you the kind of fresh vibe out of this one. This is a beautiful sake. It gets a big thumbs up from me. I definitely need to try a few of the others from this brewery at some point, because if their other ones are kind of as smooth as this, that really ticks the boxes for me for what I look for from a Japanese sake. This is lovely stuff actually. So, you know, hats off to Kurumazaka Sake for this one. They've done really nice. So, yeah, as I say, middle of your palate then, it's blanketed with this lovely, kind of very smooth and quite sweet ricey quality, but you can feel there is quite a bit of citrusy character to this one, and you can feel that the citrusy notes are almost kind of jumping off the middle of your palate. The middle of your palate dries out a little bit, and you start to get the kind of citrusy notes out of it. You can feel a little bit the sweeter characters in the middle of your palate from the booziness of this sake. It's 16%. You know, most sakes tend to be around 15-16%, sometimes they'll be about 14. This one really is, usually it's the Honjozos that are sort of 16-17, although you can get some, as I say, that are higher than that. I think the strongest sake I've had was about 19 or 20%. But this one, really, if it's a little bit higher in alcohol, you expect it to be a little bit drier, but this one really isn't. It's very smooth and very, very sweet actually. I love how that kind of sweetness comes together there, and that sweetness really lingers into the aftertaste. But like I say, you get some of these kind of dry, sort of almost astringent qualities coming off this one, which is really nice. In the back corners of the palate, there's a little bit of that earthy character, but that is quite subdued, I would say. It's got a nice kind of smooth earthiness to it, and it's not too prominent in the overall flavour. Earthiness is one of the things that we need to talk about with this, but as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, you get a little bit of a kind of floral aromaticity out of this one. It does dry out the further that you go into the aftertaste, but it's, again, that's not too prominent in the flavour. You get that a little bit more in the tail end of it. The floral notes in the centre of your palate and the floral notes in the side of the tongue, they come out a little bit later on, and as you go round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit kind of lighter and grassy in my mind. But yeah, the thing that really strikes me about this one is the sweetness and the smoothness that you get out of this. This is a beautiful, beautiful sake, I have to say. On the acidic side of things, there is a little bit of acidity to this one. That helps bring out some of those kind of fresher qualities. If you just go behind the sort of fruity part of your palate at the front, you will detect a little bit of that kind of slightly, well, it's not really very sour, but it's that kind of slightly sour quality. There's a little bit of that there. Behind the fruity part of the palate, and that helps bring out some of the kind of fresh floral qualities that you'll get from this sake, and that's quite nice actually. You can just feel that little bit of darker dryness behind the front of the palate as well. On the fruity side of things then, this one I think is really is interesting as well. So for me, the fruity side of things, definitely some nice kind of gooseberry notes to this one. It has got a little bit more of a kind of, there's a little touch of an apple-y kind of zestiness to this one, which is quite interesting. It's got a little bit of a kind of, it's not quite sharp enough to be lemons, but it's the same level of zestiness that you would expect from lemons. But there's a little bit of a kind of almost apricot-y type flavour out of this one. It's a little bit peary as well. The fruity side of this sake is very interesting, but the fruitiness is kind of contributing to the freshness that this sake really has. That's the whole thing with the Shinshu, is just the level of freshness that you get out of them. The dryness of this one, like I said, compared to some of the other ones, it's a little, it has a bit of dryness on the edge of the palate, but this isn't the driest of sakes that you're going to come across. A Honjozo, for example, would be far more dry than this one. The Junmais tend to have a good little bit of an oily character to them. This is one of the less oily Junmais that I've come across, but it's quite, you know, it really is. Yeah, it's one of the drier. I think, yeah, one of the drier Junmais that you're going to come across, but in the general terms of Japanese sake, it's not one of the drier sakes that you're going to come across. I think that's fair to say. I think we've covered most of the variables in this one now, so I think overall it's fair to say that this sake is very smooth and very sweet, but it's also got a lovely kind of freshness to it, and I think that freshness really comes out more in the aftertaste with this one. That's where this one really kind of shows off its colours as a Shinshu, if you like. So let's talk about the tail end of this one now. So, like I said, when you take this one in, it comes in with a little bit of sharpness to it, but then it smoothens out, becomes very sweet, but in the tail end you feel the floral qualities really kind of pushing their way out on the side of the palate. There's a teeny bit of earthiness there, like I said, some of the grassy notes are there, but the fruitiness lingers as well. Some of that zesty, citrusy quality is still there. The middle of your palate, the sweetness kind of starts to take a little bit of a back step, and some of the sweetness does linger there, but then the further you go into the aftertaste, you can feel some of the citrusy qualities from the rice pushing their way out in the middle of the palate as well. So I would say that overall, this is a sake that starts off quite sweet, but then it really gives you a little bit of that kind of floral, aromatic and kind of zesty kick towards the end of it actually. You get a little teeny bit of alcohol warmth out of this one, and I think that's kind of contributed to the whole idea of the Shinshu, if you like, the fresh sake. But overall, again, this is another very, very nice Japanese sake, and it's very, you know, it's difficult to come across a bad one, to be honest, unless you buy the ones in the big you know, plastic bottles. As I've said, this is the kind of Japanese equivalent to craft beer, and once you develop a taste for these, you can really pick out all the different things. The flavour scope of Japanese sake is a little bit more narrow, but you get a load of different kind of subtleties. Tasting these Japanese sakes, I think, is a little bit more like tasting whiskey than it is like craft beer, to be honest with you. But this is a lovely example of a very sweet and smooth, but also very fresh and floral sake, I think. This is really nice, so I take my hat off to Kurumazaka Sake. This is a really nice one to review for my new year 2020 sake, yeah. So mouthfeel wise then, I would say that overall this one is fairly well balanced. There's a good balance between wetness in this sake. There's a little touch of an oily quality to it as well. The mouth, I think this is, it's not the most oily sake that you're going to come across, but it does have a degree of wetness to it as well. There's a good bit of dryness to it, like I said, but that comes mainly in the tail end. It starts off a little bit more oily, it gradually becomes a bit wetter, and then a little bit drier. One of the sweet, it's kind of got a good level of sweetness to it, if you like, a little bit of fruitiness. The fruitiness for me, it's not the most oily fruitiness that you're going to come across, it's a little bit of a wetter fruitiness, but then it becomes a little bit dry. Like I say, some of those citrusy and floral notes come out at the front of the tongue the further you go into the aftertaste as well. But overall, this is just a really nice sake that starts off quite smooth and sweet, but then becomes gradually fresher and drier the further you go into the aftertaste with it. So yeah, my first example, if you like, of a Shinshu, and I really quite like that about it. I'd be curious to know a little bit more about the aging of sakes, because from what I gather, they start off quite floral and fresh, and then gradually as they get older and older, they sort of mellow out a little bit and become kind of smoother and sweeter and things. So maybe a few experiments are needed on the channel with this, but yeah, let's just leave it at that for this. A really nice sake that starts off very smooth and sweet, but then gradually becomes a little bit more kind of fresh and floral and things like that the further you go into the aftertaste. So yeah, this one was the Junmaishu Origarami from the Kurumazaka Sake brand at the Yoshimura Hideo Shoten company in Iwade, Wakayama Prefecture here in the Kansai region of Japan. A lovely sake to review for my New Year's Day sake, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed another sake review here on the channel. Let's leave it at that. Once again, a very happy New Year 2020. I hope you've enjoyed another sake review, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Slanje, Skål, Kampai. Make sure you enjoy your New Year's Day and check out some of these sakes from the Yoshimura Hideo Shoten company in Wakayama if you get the chance. More sake reviews to come over this year, of course. More craft beer reviews to come, and I will catch you guys very soon. Until the next time, Slanje Snout, and I'll catch you guys soon. Slanje, Skål, Kampai.